Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Rob Liano, the National Sales Director for AHCP. I want to welcome you to our weekly sales training. If any of you have seen me for a little while, you may have caught a session I did about organization and scheduling. It's one that I've actually been doing for a few years because it's a highly overlooked portion of business success, if I may call it that. However, this one has a little bit of a different twist because I want to give a little bit of nod to the forthcoming open enrollment, and I took some minor extractions from a recent article I wrote called 4 Ways to Get Set for Open Enrollment. So some of this will be new, some of this may be a refresher, and either way, repetition is how we learn best, right? I always say people can sing a song on the radio without crashing their car while they're driving because they have heard it so many times, they've learned it, memorized it, they know it by heart. That's kind of how I look at sales training and the components that go in with sales success. You need to repeat things, you need to know your products by heart, know your presentation and scripting by heart, things of that nature. So with that, I'm going to cover the key components that we're going to go over first, and then we'll get into it. Number one will be organizing your schedule. The second component is organizing your time, which are two different things. Maybe on the surface they seem similar, but you'll see the difference. And then organizing your tasks. So sorry, I just wanted to close the office window because they're towing someone's car outside. Okay, so we're going to go one step at a time. Organizing your schedule. I have an agent of mine that is now actually contracted through AHCP for some of the ancillary products from my former insurance agency that I owned. Last open enrollment, she did 1.5 million in submitted premium. Now everyone can figure that out. It's a pretty nice income for the short amount of time that she worked. However, her schedule was crazy. All of the top producers you will talk to that do numbers like that, they're not working 8 hours a day. They're not working 6 hours a day. They're working much longer, minimum 12-hour days, sometimes 6-7 days a week. So this is where it's really important that you organize your schedule, because otherwise everything can get away from us. And we start to not accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish. So my question always is, do you have a defined schedule that you're following? Meaning, are you going to work 6 days a week? Are you going to work late some evenings? What is your defined schedule? What is it that you plan on investing so that you can get an incredible return on the time you're investing? But you have to have it organized and you have to have it defined, because a lot of people get caught up in the madness that is phone calls and submitting policies and follow-up, and we don't accomplish everything that we want to accomplish because of that. So that's the first thing. Most importantly, you can't wing it, and no one has a good enough memory to recall everything. Meaning, if you have important appointments, they have to go on your schedule. If you have anything that is something you need to be committed to, it really has to go on a schedule. The top organizations always have tasks, and those tasks prioritized in order of importance, because everyone can be busy, but not everyone can be effective. And everyone knows what they want to do, but they're not always executing those tasks. And it's because they are not as focused as they should be on getting those tasks organized, scheduled, and commit to those tasks. So you have to write things down. Obviously, I have created the habit of every Wednesday I'm here because I host and it's on my calendar. However, there's many agents I talk to that say, oh yes, I forgot to attend that one. That means they didn't have it written down on the calendar, or something came up. But something doesn't come up every Monday, every Wednesday when we have these meetings, or Thursday now with our product training. That's an impossibility. So it's more likely that sometimes we allow our schedule to get away from us. So you really need to write things down in order to follow it. Now, this is the big one, organizing your time. We all have the same amount of time that everyone in history who has been successful has. Abe Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, anyone. So the whole thing is not having time. It's really what you're doing with your time. This is critically important now in preparation for open enrollment, as well as during open enrollment. So this is where you start to piece together your schedule by organizing your time, because we all have priorities like family, like maybe you have a workout ethic or routine you're going through, or you have children that are a responsibility, or you have just something else that has to take up your time at some point. If you are not organizing your time into a defined schedule, it's going to be very difficult to accomplish as much as you'd like. And this is a real common occurrence. You see so many people, man, I just don't have the time. But you see them posting that on Facebook and then 75 other things during the day. And that's why they don't have the time, because they're technically mismanaging it. So I want you to start to focus on tracking what you're doing with your time. Because if you don't track your time, how do you find time for anything? You know, a lot of times it's great to just do nothing and lose an entire day. It's great for just decompressing, re-energizing. That's awesome. But if you start to see that you're not accomplishing your sales goals, and oh wait, someone just added a comment. I have to check it out. Yes, I'm getting to that, man. Excellent, excellent. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna give a shout out to that when I get there. But if you're not achieving your sales goals or your personal goals, it might be because you're allowing other things to distract you time-wise, and you're not working off a set schedule. You know, I think it was Jim Rohn that said, don't go to bed without the next day being planned, meaning you should know what you're doing the minute you wake up, whatever your routine is in the morning, and then whatever your day, what you have to accomplish, because every successful day, or I should say, if you make each day successful, your entire career and life will be successful, because it cannot be any other way. But again, we have to focus. Sometimes we get into bad habits. We make some poor choices. We allow things to distract us. It's probably still going to happen even if you have a schedule and you organize your time. All the more reason to create that schedule and organize your time, because no matter what, it's possible that we can't avoid distractions. But the less we have and the more scripted our day is, the better you sleep at night, because you don't have to wonder, hey, what did I accomplish today? Or, oh man, I forgot to do that. Instead, you could really have a good night's sleep thinking, okay, I did everything I could, I got this done, and then tomorrow's another day. It really is amazing for your overall well-being, in that a sense of accomplishment is just nourishing to your soul. I don't know how to describe the psychology of it, but I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Just like when you get that sale, there's a euphoria in that as well. So that's what our objective is to be effective, be successful, and have a successful career and life. So what someone said, don't forget to add your personal appointments also. I messed up on that one today because I didn't write it down. This is someone being completely open and honest on the chat, and everyone could see it. So this is what I call time locks. And I'll give you a couple of examples. The first one is this sales training, Wednesday at 1 p.m. If you want to attend the sales trainings every week, it needs to be locked into your schedule. The other example I use very often is, let's say you do have children, you work from home, you're an agent, not in an agency, but you're an independent. We have many of those. And you have to pick up your child from school at 3 p.m. That's a great example. You know you have to pick up your child at school at 3 p.m. every day. So you can't schedule an appointment at 2:30 or 2:45, right? Because that may screw things up. So this is where some of the key components of time management come into play. You have to figure out how to work in and around these types of personal appointments. You might have a doctor's appointment. You might go to the gym, 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is. And then the rest of those time, you have to start to create what I call the money hours. The hours throughout the day where you will persevere and act and work towards getting those sales. Because the number one thing is selling. I always say, the number one requirement of any salesperson is to close sales, because that's their job, right? If you're not closing sales, you're not really doing your job, and you're not really needed anywhere. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just want you to see kind of the humor in it is, if you don't close, you're not effective. So there are several components that can be looked at aside from just sales training skills. There are some life skills and organization skills as well, because very often, as a certified life coach, I have noticed that people's personal challenges affect their business success as well. So why I'm covering some of these topics is because it's all interconnected. And I'm not obviously a full-time life coach because I'm here, but some of those components come up very often on my calls with agents, which is very interesting. And because they are struggling personally and they feel they can open up. And it's a beautiful thing. So if anyone is struggling there, you can reach out as the national sales director. I'll hook that up also. That's a perk. So what I'm talking about here, though, is the time locks that are very important in making sure you're organized your schedule and you're making the most use of your time. And then add the components around that, like 9 to 2, you want to, on Mondays, just blast out calls. I mean, I'll give you an example of what we did as a test in our agency when I was managing one of the satellite offices. We literally cold called. I had like my hardcore guys that had no fear cold calling businesses in the area to set up appointments, and then out of the area to set up phone appointments, because we did a test face-to-face and then we did a test telephonically. And we had equal success in both. In that Monday and Tuesday, they just made phone calls just to set appointments. And then they set those appointments for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You cannot imagine the success rate, because if they got one appointment every hour, and you know, if you're leaving messages most often, you can make 50 calls in an hour. If you have a dialer, which we are just now negotiating with to get a better price on an amazing dialer, you can make more calls than that and constantly be talking to people. But think about that. If you work 2 8-hour days, you got one appointment an hour, it's 16 appointments for the rest of the week. That has to equate to a huge chunk of sales. So part of that being effective is defining that schedule and committing to the time based around those time blocks. So a lot of people try and fit a round peg in a round hole, and that makes the most sense because, I said that backwards, I'm sorry. It should be a round peg in a round hole. A lot of people try to shove a square peg in a round hole, meaning they're just going to wing their whole schedule. All right, I'm going to call this person. Okay, here I have an email. Let me jump to that. I'm going to answer this client's email. And they're very distracted. To me, I call that ineffective, as most of you would agree, because you can get so distracted with these tasks because they're not written down. The thing that has worked best for me that sometimes I stray away from, because as I said, we can still get distracted even if we have a set schedule, but this worked really effectively, is I created times to check my emails and respond. Because for the most part, I've noticed that they're not completely urgent. And if it's really urgent, people will use other methods to reach you, like a text or a call or a cell phone, right? So we tend to put a lot of emphasis on this emergency status of every email. The chime goes off, it comes to our phone, we're constantly connected. That's a distraction. So you want to consider when you're doing your schedule is, hey, in the morning, go through your emails, answer things back. Once in the afternoon, once in the evening before you leave, and start to let people know that, hey, if it's important, here's my cell, text me, or some other method of really, if it's an emergency. I guarantee you this will make you more relaxed, more productive, more effective, and it teaches people to respect your time, meaning they won't just bother you with an email during the day if it's really not that important, or they will understand that they can wait. So a round peg and a round hole will always work better. Now, again, I hit on this to an extent, organizing your tasks. So let's talk about a few things regarding specifically open enrollment. You have to get certified with certain products, right, in order to be able to sell them. And we have been actually making a little bit of a push in that we're sending out the invites for the training Q&As and how to get certified and registered for the FFM, all of that nature. I'm actually going to be working on the editing of a video of that today that we will be able to get out to you. Hopefully with the recap of this, that would be a great way, and I'm sure Paul will be right on that, our marketing guru. But part of the tasks now in preparation for open enrollment, it has to include getting certified. I would even go so far as to say, have you gotten appointed? Because you need to get your appointments in too for ancillary products. Like tomorrow we have a training for a new gap plan product that seems really interesting. Perfect timing for open enrollment. So it's something like that. You need to put it on your plate and schedule to get appointed for any products that you might want to sell, like NHIC's products, CBL, Assurity, anything supplemental, or if you call it ancillary. You need to get the appointments in because the crush happens now. This is why I'm bringing it up. We're already at the end of August. There's only about a week left. And this is when the insurance companies are inundated with everyone who procrastinated. So don't wait any longer. Make sure you know the products, rich product benefit package you want to offer your clients, and make sure you have your appointments. And obviously, of course, getting back to the main topic, getting certified. Another thing I alluded to earlier, attending webinar training. Meaning there's a lot of training out there, not only through us, but through other locations like it's called RegTap, REGTAP. And I actually went on there just to record the video of the certification process through the FFM. And it was great. It was easy. It was done for me. It sounded like people were literally reading off of a script when they did it. It wasn't as natural as I'm used to sometimes, but it doesn't matter because it's straight up informative information. Again, I recorded that on my computer. There's this feature I can record the screen and you hear them on their phone. The quality is not the best, so I'll apologize now for that, but it will be able to walk you through that. But anything else, like the sales training we have, or any other things, you might be seeing a lot of ads lately for cold calling, sales webinars. I'm not the only person that knows about sales training, and I certainly don't know it all. So if you really want to get into some other stuff, there are ways to search that out, but make sure you get it organized on your schedule so that you don't miss any of these important things. Networking. How much time and when are you going to put into networking? Maybe a Saturday afternoon, you want to walk around your area and decide to network with people there, because I actually spoke to an agent earlier today on one of my coaching calls, and I asked how she generates leads, and she says, well, I'm listed in the marketplace, and I'm really the only person that has any credibility because the health reform shook out a lot of agents. So there's one opportunity of networking. She also works a lot of referrals. They also have walk-ins and call-ins, which is because obviously they're an agency with a storefront, which is still around these days. Now, she also does some phone calls and some face-to-face. But the point is, she's positioned herself to not have to invest in a lot of leads. Instead, there's a time investment, which is always probably more. It probably brings back more revenue than some of the money we can invest. So you want to think about where you're going to be networking and schedule time to do so. I used to do everything that wasn't bringing money into my business in the late afternoon, meaning I would do all my phone calls, try and get my one call closes, all my checking of policies, all during the day, everything that counted as money. And then in the afternoons, I would do stuff like go through my emails, work on my newsletter, do some networking, follow up with clients to see if their policies went through, or follow up with the insurance agencies, see if the policies got issued, and then call those clients. Maybe I had a pending offer, things of that nature. So it's all stuff like that, and organizing your time so that you can get things done. I want to give you a side tidbit. Some of you may consider hiring someone to do some of the tasks that will interfere with your selling, because if you're a salesperson and good at it, you need to be spending the most of your time selling. You could even potentially find an intern at a school where it wouldn't even cost you anything, who might be able to help you with some of the social media things or with some filing, whatever it is. Don't think limited in that you have to do it all yourself. And that's also part of networking. Who else can you network with that can help you grow your business? Are there other companies in your area that might be able to help you, meaning realtors, etc., anyone who needs help with insurance? The last thing I wanted to hit on is a great overlooked portion of networking is setting up a live seminar. Specifically, Knights of Columbus, wherever it is that you could host at a hotel, rent out a hotel room, and invite people to start to understand how to get through the ACA open enrollment with less of a headache. That alone can be the most effective strategy. And you do have to offer it as something that's educational, informational, and free, because you want to educate them. And all that does is you're giving them information, and they are going to trust you. And then potentially when you market to them after the fact, if people don't bite right there and then and there, you can gain a really great network of potential clients. That's something that's really effective. And if anyone needs help with designing that, I have a couple of cool tips that work really well, and I can help you out with that. So everyone knows how to get to me, but if you don't, you will know at the end of this session. Planning your strategy. See, this is a part that's really neglected, is how much time do you actually take and put on your schedule to plan? Like every Sunday night, I'm kind of sketching out my week that's not already scripted and locked in, because otherwise, how do you get other certain things done? Like, let's say you want to end work Friday early and go golfing or something like that. You need to try and make sure that you get everything done, or you're going to wind up being late. Part of that is scheduling as well, because you do have to have somewhat of a personal life, although maybe not during open enrollment, or it won't feel like it during open enrollment. But you do have to invest time in your schedule to plan. Like, what are your strategies? There's a couple of things I mentioned about social media throughout some of these calls, and that does take some time. However, there are a couple of tools you could use. In fact, I use them, and a quote may have gone up. I post quotes on my Facebook page and some articles and blogs, and on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And it's all automated and scheduled in advance, meaning I don't have to log in, write the quote on this page, log out, go to LinkedIn, write it there. I don't have to do that anymore. And it's amazing. It has freed up so much of my time, because there's a product out there. The one I use is called Buffer, Buffer. It allows you to automatically schedule in advance anything you want posted on social media, Pinterest, LinkedIn, etc., including videos. And videos are big for promo right now. So that's something else to consider, is getting organized in just using a tool like that to promote your business so that it frees up your time. You could literally spend about an hour and have the next few weeks scheduled of, share some blogs, share some of your original work, share some other things about educating your consumers, just funny, health-related cartoons. Anything that's going to keep you in the public eye is what you want to do, but you also have to schedule that time as well. So as I said, if you don't track your time, how do you find time for anything? And I want to repeat that, because a lot of us don't even know where our money goes and where our time goes. That's one of the two biggest things that I encounter when I'm talking to people. They have no idea what's coming in, what's going out, and not as dramatic as it sounds, but they also don't know, hey, well, where did the time go? I don't even realize what I accomplished. And in order to improve upon anything, you have to have data that goes with it and track what's going on, right? What's going on here? What are the results? And then you have to shift gears and figure out, okay, how can I tweak what's going on to tweak the results? So that for me is really critical. So you need to focus on, if it's the only takeaway, tracking your time, meaning on a daily basis, what are you doing? I remember when I first did this, I was spending way too much time on social media that wasn't positioning me for anything beneficial return-wise. It was basically wasting my time. And it's always fun. You get on Facebook and you find a friend you met 20 years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then it's gone. You probably don't interact with them very much after that, but it can form a habit to where, hey, it's instant attention. A lot of us want instant attention. It's interaction. You feel engaged, and it does decompress you, but you just have to be aware of the time you're investing there and if it's progressing you towards your sales goals. Okay, here are the action steps. Create the puzzle, and the puzzle is your schedule. And what I mean is fill in all of these dots. Now, this is something I have a copy. If you like it, email me and I'll send it to you, right? I'm sure you can see that there. So I just want to make sure if anyone isn't watching the slides, I have a great daily schedule template that is the easiest thing to do and follow, even if you just did a day in advance, a week in advance, whatever it is. So ask me for that. And then the next thing is plan your attack. Meaning, what are you going to do first? What are your tasks and what are the priorities? What do you need done in order to get to step B and then step C? And then, of course, you have to attack your plan. Because if you don't act, that's the number one thing. There was that big push for the movie The Secret. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. It wasn't anything new. It goes back to as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, which is from the Bible. And then there was a book written, As a Man Thinketh, in the early 1900s. And then Think and Grow Rich was the same premise. And then in the 50s, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale was exactly the same thing. You become what you think about. What The Secret movie and marketing explosion left out is you have to act. You have to work. This works if you work at it. If you don't work, you don't get anything. People have, and I see these quotes on Facebook, just wait, and when the time is right, everything you want will come to you. If that were true, everyone would have what they want at a certain point. But so many people go through their entire lives not having it. So that attitude is not going to get anyone anywhere, but I suppose it makes some people feel good. But I don't agree with that. So number one thing is you always have to act and attack your plan.